Hello, everyone. I'm Sutonia. I'm joined by Jintan. We were on the desk before. Now we're in the arena. So why don't you tell me about what Dockwalkers have brought, Jin?
Yeah, Dogworkers have a really interesting composition here. It looks like armor control, but they've put a lot of points into this support wing with that Nurgle, two Arbitrators, and a Punisher. So that's cost them a lot of their top end. They don't have a Redeemer or any other heavy post platform, which is normally quite central to how this comp plays out. Instead, they are trying to make it up with that low end. And I'm not sure how that's going to work against Odin's Call because they're also going for this long game.
Yeah, Odin School have those two Leshaks. They also have an Armageddon as well. So they have newts. They have that ramping DPS. They do not have quite as strong as a bottom end as the Dockworkers team. You know, they have the two Vexes to match the two Arbitrators, but Dockworkers do have that Nurgle, and they do have the Guardian as opposed to the two Deacons.
Yeah, the Nurgle is one of those ships that is really heavily pointed, and honestly, for a reason. It is so powerful if you let it sit on top of something. You basically have to spend your support wing taking it down early on in the match, or you're going to lose the support fight. And here we go, the match is starting. Let's see what the first primaries are. It looks like the Punisher from Asuka is taking a little bit of damage. I'm not sure why that is, but there we go, Lepici in the Leshak is going to be the primary. This makes a lot of sense. They haven't got a lot of DPS. They need to take something down quickly if they start to trade off. But I don't know. Maybe this is just a bait play, trying to force that Guardian in so that they can tackle it down. Sorry, the Deacons in so that they can start tackling it down.
Yeah, one of the issues that these Deacons are going to have is that to rep these Leshaks, they're going to have to be in Armageddon Newt range because the Armageddon, of course, gets a bonus to neutralizer range. Taking down the Leshaks seems like a good call. I think if they just go for trading the smaller support ships, these Leshaks are going to ramp up, and eventually they're going to break through that Armageddon if they're unable to take down a Leshak before they reach max ramp.
Look at that, though. Those arbitrators are still able to put out those TDs through these newts. This is really painful for Leshaks. Obviously, if you ever break the optimal range on a Leshak, it's not the same as it is with a normal ship. Normally, you can just move back into range. You'll be fine. With the Leshaks, you lose so much if they break a single spool. All they have to do is pulse them on and off, bait the Leshak out to a decent range, and they can effectively stop the advantage from Odin's Call team from taking effect. And you're seeing that here. The DPS just is not that applying that well to anything here.
Yeah, both the Shacks are spooling up on the Armageddon. So far, the Armageddon seems to be hanging in there, but eventually, I think once these the Shacks are at full spool, I think even the Guardian isn't going to be able to keep him up.
Yeah, there we go. Though we're seeing a little bit of DPS get spread onto the Vexer there. That's an interesting call. I'm not sure why. This Armageddon's in half armor though. This is going to be really bad if it goes down. If it goes down, they've got so little DPS on the field. They have to rely on the Nurgle and the other ramp up ships, and that's a hard game to play versus a top end of Leshaks. They have such good tracking.
Yeah, they do have. Yeah, they do have those two arbitrators that can apply TD effects around, but the Leshaks are right on top of the Armageddon. There's no escape when you're grappled by two Leshaks. The Armageddon in half hour and it's gone.
Oh, and the Nurgle, it's in half armor too here. This is terrible stuff for dock workers. They're losing almost all of the DPS core that they're going to need to win this top end trade, and they're losing it fast. The Leshak hit there, you can see it's still just sitting there in 10% armor. It doesn't look like it's got a care in the world as it takes down this Nurgle.
And Nurgle about to drop. The Shacks have called a absolution of dock workers. Ergonal Kundo's absolution. They're going to start spawning up on them, and it's only a matter of time before those Shack Triglavian weapons.
Just shot there, showing why the Nurgle is 7 points as it sits at about 10% hull, nearly surviving an onslaught of the enemy team. God, that took so much damage to finally put down, almost as much as the absolution here as it hangs around in low armor, low hull, and low life.
Yeah, Rogue Clone's Guardian looks like it's in a bit of trouble too, as one of the Vexers has managed to jump on top of him and is neuting him out right now, and he also has a few other drones on him, as well as the Skybreaker assisting.
Yeah, there's a little bit of damage there now, finally going out onto Odin's onto the Guardian. But honestly, at this point, I'm not sure if it's even worth spending the time you're going to need to kill it. You've taken out all of the DPS here in your armor control comp. The only way you lose now is, yeah, there we go, final absolution dead. This is just cleanup crew here from Odin's Call.
Yeah, I think it's completely over at this point, and the Guardian has been called, so he's probably going to die pretty soon. Although Skybreaker Vatral is going down soon. I think at this point it's pretty much impossible for Odin's Call to lose unless they make some super weird error like going out of the arena. But yeah, well fought by them. It looks like they definitely chose the right primaries to begin with.
Yeah, what do you think about these absolutions instead of the damnations that we've seen previously? I feel like the damnations offer so much more given how tanky they are. They make this sort of trade really, really difficult to do, even if you do have Leshak spools. 200k EHP is just so much to grind through, and an Abso is only, 120, 140, depending on how you fit it.
Yeah, the big difference between the absolution and the damnation, I think, is that the absolution has a lot more DPS and it's able to apply quite a bit further than the damnation with using Scorch, whereas the damnation is kind of limited. I mean, I guess it can load javelins and get about the same range, but the damnation just has so much more utility. It has such a bigger drone base. You have more armor rep bots. You can have backups. And the damnation also has that extra mid slot as well as like a much bigger tank, so it can sit around longer, and it's also going to have more utility, like pack an extra tracking disruptor or a scram or something.
Yeah, I'm surprised. It seemed like Dogworkers had a really good potential counter here. They had a really, really heavy control comp, whereas, Odin's Call is a bit more of a mix. It's got a bit of mid-range elements to it with that Leshak, with those two Vexers. But they just weren't able to execute well enough, unfortunately. They got picked apart very early on. That Armageddon got webbed down, it went in too deep, and the Absolutions weren't able to kite it out at the end to bring anything back.
Yeah, I actually really favored the Dockworkers team quite a bit since both teams had Armageddons, but crucially the Guardian wouldn't have to be in Armageddon newt range to be able to keep remote repping, whereas the Deacons would have to go into Armageddon newt range to rep up those Leshaks, but they just weren't able to really stick any damage anywhere. It seemed like we saw a bunch of different targets taking damage, but nothing really got low enough for them to be able to accomplish anything. And when you waste time against two Leshaks, they're just going to spool up and eventually just crush through you.
Yeah, I was really surprised because the Skybreaker screened off that Nurgle, but then they never put a single bit of damage. It was literally the only ship on their team they never shot, and it was the thing that was keeping 7 points from having an impact on the game.
Yeah, really good screening by them because the Nurgle itself is actually a big threat by itself to the logistics pilots. If it can spool up, it can do up to 700 DPS. So it has enough DPS to just break through a Logi frigate just by itself. But the Skybreaker of Kaz did a great job screening him off and making him waste his spool on that Skybreaker. It's only worth 1 point. So even if he spools up and kills the Skybreaker, it's definitely worth Odin's Call. And it looks like they'll take the match here. Congratulations to Odin's Call.
Yeah, and with that, we'll head back to the studio to hear more about what they could have done to maybe win this one.